Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Skein Story Podcast. My name is Charlie, or Charlotte, you can call me what you want, and I'm coming to you from the southeast coast of Scotland, where I live with my wife and our King Charles Cavalier, Bertie. You can find me on Instagram as the Literary Crafter, where I share what I've been reading, crafting and snippets of everyday life. Or you can find me on Goodreads and Storygraph, where I'm also the Literary Crafter. Some of you may even remember that I had a YouTube channel almost 10 years ago called the Love Charlie Crochet Podcast, or you may have seen my patterns years ago again in Simply Crochet or Inside Crochet magazines, but that's a long time ago now. And if you're new, hello, it's lovely to meet you. I hope you're having a great day, and thank you for clicking on this video and taking a chance on me. For the last 5 years, I've been thinking about coming back to YouTube, but I kept putting it off and overthinking it, and eventually just realised that the best thing to do would probably be to just give it a go. I know that the internet doesn't need another podcast, and I'm not sure I've got anything new to bring to the table, but I can promise you that I'll bring LGBT, neurodiversity and plus size representation into the crafting and bookish space, because they're all parts of who I am too. One of the reasons I loved being a part of the crafting community online before was because of all of the wonderful people I met along the way. I want to start the Skein Story Podcast because I want a space where I can combine all of my hobbies and talk about them too. I'm hoping to bring you along on this literary, crafting and coastal adventure, and hopefully meet some new people along the way. I'll talk about what I'm making, what I'd like to make next, yarn I want to use from my stash, yarn I'd like to buy, any new purchases I make, what I've been reading, what I hope to read next. And I also want to intertwine some peaceful clips of walks and nature that bring me so much joy and calm. I've thought about future videos that I can make, like stash tour, craft room tour, my favourite notions and tools, projects that I'd like to make, reading vlogs, crafting vlogs and more. So if you knit, crochet, cross stitch or read, or maybe you just like slow living chit chat, please say hi in the comments, and if you want to see more of me, please consider hitting the subscribe button. For now, I don't know how frequently I'll upload or how long the videos will be. This one will probably be longer than the rest, and I'm hesitant to commit to a specific schedule as I tend to put way too much pressure on myself. And I want this to be a fun and relaxed, safe space, one where we can all, myself included, sit down with a cup of something lovely to drink and take a minute with our latest project. On that note, now that the boring part is out of the way with, please press pause and make sure you've got a drink and your work's in progress, and we'll dive into episode 1. I've got myself a mug of Twinings Digest tea, and I thought I would start by showing you some of the recent projects I've finished before digging out my current works in progress. So we'll start with the crafting side. A couple of these are actually not so recent, but I still have to block them and weave in the ends, so I'm including them in the hopes that this will encourage me to do that soon. Consequently, both of these projects are for my wife, who has waited so patiently, so if I get this done, she can finally have them for the autumn winter. So first up, we have the Mackenzie lace cardigan by Ashley Lilies. Let me see if I can actually get it out of the bag. It's crammed in here. I bought this pattern over on Ravelry. It's a lovely chunky v-neck cardigan with ribbing on the cuffs, on the hem and on the button band. It's my first ever knitted cardigan, and it's also the first time that I have made something with buttonholes, so a couple of new techniques for me. Its construction is like by panels and then you sew it all together at the end. The pattern costs $10 US, which is around £7.77, and uses bulky yarn, and it comes in 5 graded sizes, the smallest fitting a bust of 114 centimetres and the largest at 151.5 centimetres. So that is here. I made this with, I pulled out the yarn somewhere because I bought too much. Novita Isabelli in the colour 44, which is a charcoal grey. This yarn is 130 metres per 100 grams, and it is 75% wool and 25% polyamide. This cardigan is extremely heavy, just going to throw that over there. It weighs a lot. I haven't weighed it and I can't remember how many balls of wool I used. I know I could weigh it, but it's so big. It's oversized. The intention was to make a cosy cardigan. I made this in 2024 and I was constantly wearing my Taylor Swift folklore cardigan, which, if you know the cardigan, it's cable knit and extremely chunky, but I wanted to make my wife something similar that she could wear in the cold months in Scotland. The wool isn't scratchy, but it's not the softest, but also I've not blocked it yet, so it might soften up quite a bit. But the pattern has these lacy leaf designs, which I haven't blocked out, but they're quite diamond-like in shape. The cardigan's lovely, it's just extremely heavy. I call it a grandpa cardigan, so I think it's going to be really nice in the autumn and winter to snuggle down in with a book and a cup of tea. So that is the first one. As I said, 2024, so if I finish this you can have it 2 years later, and I'm going to just throw this. There's a bed over there, so I'm just throwing everything over there. Next is another project that I made for my wife. This is a Christmas jumper which I knitted last year for cancer research as a fundraiser, which was a challenge to knit a Christmas jumper between the 1st and the 31st of December. I just about did this. I think I finished with only a day or two to spare at the end of the year, but I've still not blocked it or woven in the ends, and I might remove the bottom cuff and extend it a little bit in length and then do the cuff again before it's finally finished, but I want to block it and see how it fits. So this pattern is the Christmas Market Sweater by Stitching Simply, which I bought on Ravelry. The pattern costs $6 or £4.66. The pattern uses DK weight yarn and there are 10 sizes, from bust sizes 94 centimetres to 175. I used for this Cedar Country Classic DK colour 0867, which is like a forest green. It's a 50-50 wool acrylic blend, so I'm hoping that I can put it on a gentle wash. The yardage is 125 metres per 50 grams. And the contrast colour is West Yorkshire Spinners Morris double knit in sage, which is 100% British wool, 50% blue faced Leicester and 25% Masham, 25% blue faced Kerry Hill. This yarn comes in 50 gram balls as well, with meterage of 112 metres per 50 grams. I realise I say yardage before, meterage now, sorry. So I don't know how many balls of this I used again. I could weigh it, but I'm probably not going to. I don't know what size I made, but it fits, so that's the good thing. It doesn't have much shaping apart from some short rows at the neck, but the real treat in this for me was the colour work. It's the first garment that I've made with colour work, and it features these pine trees, reindeer and snowflakes, so I thought that was really lovely. And it's not like over in your face Christmas, so I think it can be worn just in the winter months, even though I absolutely love Christmas and I would wear Christmas jumper for the whole of December. I start Christmas in November. Throw over there. So I used the cedar from my stash, although I did have to buy a couple of extra balls which might work out in my favour because now if I want to lengthen it a little bit, I've got enough. And I bought the West Yorkshire spinners from John Lewis. So they were last year's, but this year I was been in a bit of a crafting slump and I didn't actually pick up any craft projects until March, when I actually picked up an old whip. I started in October last year, and that was the Midsummer Dancer Socks by Sari Nordland. 1 second, tea time. Okay, so Midsummer Dancer Socks by Sari Nordland. The pattern is on Ravelry for €6.90, which is about £6.23. The pattern calls for finger and weight 4-ply yarn, and it's worked cuff down, starting with the ruffle, followed by a simple floral lace pattern. I had only completed the ruffles on both socks. I always make my socks 2 at a time so I don't get second sock syndrome. So I was about here. I made these with a skein of Knit Global, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, which had a meterage of 400 meters per 100 grams in the shade Plum. I bought this yarn years ago at Yarndale. Burgundy is my favourite colour, and it's been on my list for a long time to add a pair of burgundy hand knit socks to my sock drawer. So finally I have those done now. It was easy to memorise the lace pattern on the socks. So I actually used this yarn as a contrast on a previous pair of socks I made last autumn, which I have just chucked on sock blockers because I've worn them and not blocked them since. But I used the Plum for the frill at the top and the toes, and I made these extra long so I can kind of like ruffle them down on my ankle, and I thought they'd be cozy, super cozy socks for the autumn. Again, not going to throw them because that would make quite a clatter. That ruffled sock pattern is by Warm and Knitted S, and I bought the pattern on Etsy, and I plan to knit another pair of socks pretty soon using the final scraps of this Plum yarn, and hopefully use the rest of it up, but I'll talk about that when I talk about the next projects that I want to start through. I then pulled out an old whip that I started as a Christmas Eve cast on in 2018, and I finished it last year in March, but I only just blocked it this year, so I'm going to show you. And that is the Aria shawl by my friend Fay, who you can find on YouTube as Fay DH Designs. Hi Fay, if you're watching. Fun fact, Fay is one of my best friends, and I actually met Fay through my original YouTube channel back in the day. Fay is an incredible crochet and knitwear designer, primarily crochet, and she flies the flag for modern crochet and has been published all over the place in Murrit crochet magazines, 52 Weeks of Socks issue 2, and the Scottish Journal, just to name a few. I'm incredibly proud of her, and I feel so lucky that she's my friend. So this is the Aria shawl, which is a triangle crochet shawl, which looks like this. This shawl is crocheted. It features intarsia, which I'm not sure you can see on mine because it's so subtle, but there are triangles running down the centre of the shawl. This can be bought on Ravelry for £5, and it can also actually be bought as a knitting pattern for anyone that prefers knitting. The pattern is inspired by a mermaid sculpture in Scotland, and the original design used a yarn whose colourway was called Mermaid. The yarn I used, I actually have another skein of it, and that is a Rivenknits BFL 4-ply in the colourway Eve's Birthday, which is 400 meters per 100 grams, and it's got these lovely pinks and greens, and I paired that with a 20-gram skein of Rivenknits 4-ply in a soft, like a peachy colour. You can see here. I'm not sure what the colour of that specific yarn is called. The triangle details, as I said, they're very subtle, and if I was going to make this again, I'd probably choose more of a contrast between the two, but I actually really like it. Hello, sorry, I'm back after a couple of technical difficulties, so I've made myself a new cup of tea. The lighting might have changed slightly, so yeah, that one's finished finally, so throw. We recently went on holiday, and before we flew, I cast on another of Fay's patterns. It has been on my make list for years, and I finally just sat down and started. It's in this bag. It's still not blocked, but it will be shortly, and it's the Doppio Colosseum shawl. It's a crocheted pattern, but you can also find it as a knitted pattern. It uses 2 skeins of 100 grams, 400 meters 4-ply, and I use 2 skeins of John Arbon Textiles Knit by Numbers 4-ply in the colour 74, which as you can see is a burgundy colour. The composition of the yarn that I used is 100% Falklands Merino, but I think that their blend has changed since I bought my yarn quite a few years ago. I believe from the website it says it's now 50-50 BFL Merino. I think it was Yarndale that I bought this, but it might also have been Wonderwool Wales. It took me 2 weeks to finish, and it was just such a mindful, easy make. It was really relaxing. The instructions were very clear. I completed the first half sat by a pool with a pina colada, so I think that when I wear this in the cooler months, it's always going to remind me of being on holiday. The Doppio Colosseum pattern can be found on Ravelry for £5 by Fay DH Designs. As I said, you can also get it as a knitted pattern. As you can see from the design, it is inspired by the Colosseum in Rome, and you can really see that influence in the pattern, even though mine is all curled up and not blocked yet, but it has these stepped increases on the side. It's an asymmetrical shawl and it's nice and shallow, and I'm really looking forward to getting this blocked so I can wear it pretty much straight away, probably on beach walks. It's really simple, and yeah, so that's my Doppio Colosseum. I'll throw. That's it for my recently finished projects. So now I can show you my current works in progress. I used to have a lot of works of progress at any one time. I think the worst it's ever been is 18, and I found it really overwhelming, and so I started to work my way through those and get to the point where I've only got a handful of works in progress at any time. I usually have one knit and one crochet, or one smaller project like a pair of socks that I can take out and about with me, and then a larger project like a blanket or a jumper that stays at home. One project that has been on the go for maybe 4 years, 5 years even, and it will take me many more to finish, and that is a full coverage cross stitch. As you can see, I've got it here on my frame. It is the Breakers Mini, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, and it's going to be the painting the breakers. I can't recall who painted it. It is on 25 count easy count even weave, and I'm completing this in the 10 by 10 stitch squares, and I'm leaving my threads on hold on these bobbins. I don't work on this too much because it takes an awful lot of concentration. I have to use an app to track the stitches, and I need good light, and even though now is probably the best time to work on it, I always get called to it in the winter months when it's cozy and you've got more time to kind of veg inside. But yeah, I'm not in any rush to finish it. It's when I do sit down and work on it, I do kind of bursts of it a couple of times a year, and it's just a really nice project to work on. I really enjoy it, but I just don't pick it up that often. So that is my current kind of cross stitch. I enjoy normal cross stitch as well, not just like the full coverage. This is my first full coverage cross stitch, but I haven't got any others on the go at the moment. That might change. But yeah, first whip. I'm not going to throw that one. On to the second work in progress, and that is down here. It is in a massive basket, which I'll show you. It's huge, and it is just full of double knit acrylic, a mixture of Stylecraft and King Cole, Hayfield, and other that have not had bands on in my stash. I'm just really trying to use up my acrylic and then only buy when I've got specific projects in mind, like baby blankets or children's toys, or just a blanket that I want to be able to chuck in the wash easily. But yeah, this one is a Sophie's Universe blanket by Deirdre, and she's on Instagram as Look What I Made. I'm using the physical pattern book, which I got in 2017, which I think is when it was published. And I started this last year, and I'm over halfway. But you know what it's like when you're crocheting in a round? It gets longer the closer you get to the end. So even though I'm over halfway, the part that I've got left is probably going to take as long, if not longer, than what I've already done. But this is looking like this. I hope you can see it. This blanket has been on my make wish list for almost 10 years, and I was put off because of the amount of stitches, like new stitches to me, in it, and it looked a bit overwhelming and a bit complicated. And do you know what? It actually isn't. The instructions are very clear and easy to follow, and I found myself just learning new stitch combinations easily with the way that the pattern is written. I'm fascinated with all of the little flowers that you can see. We've got rows on every round. There's some kind of new flower, and we've got roses. There's tulips on here somewhere. And then, yeah, it's so tactile. It's very pleasing. So yeah, that is the Sophie's Universe blanket. And I recently found that there's a Charlotte's Universe, or a Charlotte something or other, so maybe I have to make that one next. But the whole time that I've been working on this blanket, I've been thinking of a friend, so I think that when it's done I might send this to her as a surprise in the post. I think she'd really like it, and the colours and everything about it just make me think of her, so I'd like to get this finished soon. I'm on round... What round am I on? Let me have a look. I'm on round 77 of 113, so not too many to go, but it will get longer as it gets bigger. But now that I've shown you, I am held accountable and hopefully can get this finished maybe in the next couple of months, if I focus on it and don't start anything else. My final work in progress I'm currently working on is a pair of socks, which is kept in here. This is, well, I call it mud, but I've heard people call it mood, but it's like a leather project bag. It's just big enough for a pair of socks. I make mine 2 at a time, so I've got 2 50-gram cakes in here, and I've also got a 20-gram mini. This is a free pattern on Ravelry called Winter's Frost, and it's by This Handmade Life. So if I just open this up, I cast these on before we went on holiday so that I could work on them on the plane, and I just did the cuffs so that I didn't have to think, and then I actually wrote the chart down on a little post-it note and put it in the lid so that I didn't have to have paperwork with the pattern out on the flight. So that is these. One has a heel, the other doesn't, but this one's ready for a heel. So the yarn that I've used for these socks is a sock set by Lay Family Yarn in the colourway Vintage China, which is a lovely cream colour speckled with kind of a cornflower blue, a mustard, rusty yellow and lilac, and it came with a mini skein of this lovely lilac-y lavender colour, which I'm using as a contrast for cuffs, heels and toes. Hopefully if I get enough for the toes. The yarn composition is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and it's 365 meters per 100 grams. But the pattern is very easy to follow. It's got lovely charts in it. I do appreciate a good chart. This yarn I've had for years. I bought it at Yarndale, and it was so pretty and I loved it so much that I was scared to use it. And I don't know if this is a neurodivergent thing or if it's everyone, but when there's something so special, I just put it to the side and I'm scared to use it. And I can be the same with notebooks and the same with stickers, and they'll just sat there and I'm terrified that if I use it I've ruined it, or if I don't choose like the most perfect thing to do with it, then it's not going to be okay, the world's going to fall apart. But I think this pattern really complements the yarn and I'm very happy, and it's really enjoyable to work on. So these socks will have a lace pattern running down the side of each of the socks, and it's kind of almost like a chevron arrow shape with little like eyelet-y yarn over detail on either side of it. And I just think they're so pretty and I'm so happy, and the stitch markers that I've chose work really well with it, and it fits so nicely into my project bag, and it's just been such an enjoyable project to work on, and I'm hoping to get these finished in the next week, so hopefully I can show you a finished pair next time I'm here. I don't think I've got any more whips on the go at the moment, although there might be one or two hiding somewhere that I've not found. If I do find them, I'll show you at a later time. But at the moment I have got cast-on-itis and I just want to start all the new projects. Like literally everything I see on Instagram, Pinterest, Ravelry, I'm screenshotting things, and I just want to make everything, but I have resisted so far. But when I've finished my Winter's Frost socks, I do want to cast on another pair of socks, and I have got the yarn all wound up already, and that's in a William Morris Cosmetics bag, which I'm using as a project bag. And that is the Blahan socks by Fay, Fay DH, and they look like this. So there's these flower detailing on the sides of the socks, and I have got wound up two 50-gram balls of a Vicky Brown Designs yarn in a really pale pink, and it's got a sparkle fleck running through it. And the reason why I chose this colour for the project is that the pattern really reminds me of cherry blossom, which is unsurprising because Blahan is, I probably am saying it wrong, but the name of the pattern is Scottish Gaelic for bloom or blossom, and so I love it when things all come together, and this colour yarn really reminds me of cherry blossom season, so that's what I'm going to use for my main colour. And then as the contrast I mentioned earlier, I've got two little balls of the burgundy Knit Global yarn from my Midsummer Dancer sock, so I'm hoping that that would be a nice contrast for the flower detailing, which I believe is embroidered on afterwards, although I haven't read through the pattern yet, but this is what I'm planning. And then let me know what you think in the comments. I've got this idea of using this spring green colour, which I think is a Riverknits mini skein, and just doing like 1 or 2 rows on the top of the cuff before continuing with the rest of the pattern. Not like a full contrast heel, cuffs, toes, but just like 1 or 2 rows at the top. Do you think that that would take away from the impact of the pattern, or is it a good idea, bad idea? I'd love to know your thoughts. Oh, dropped. Let me get the other one. I know. I nearly dropped that in my cup of tea. So that's the colours. This pattern can be bought at provenancecraft.com. My plan is that these socks would be a great combo with my Aria shawl, which also reminds me of Blossom, and for the April showers and cooler beach walks, I thought they would go together really nicely. Other patterns that I have seen and saved recently, and that I would like to cast on. I really would like to make a knitted hair bow or a hair scrunchie, or maybe both, so that I can add easily and quickly some knitted accessories to my wardrobe. I've seen so many free patterns on Ravelry, so I'm just gonna list them and yeah, you can see and then I will update you with which ones I have chose to make. So the first one is The Winter's Bow by Rachel Borello Carroll, free on Ravelry, and this one uses DK yarn and 3.25 needles. Then I've got the Soho Scrunchie by Tori Yu, which is also free on Ravelry, as well as the Scrap Yarn Scrunchie by Cosy Yarn, also free on Ravelry. I think all of these are free, so I'll stop saying that. I've got the Dahlia Hair Tie Bow by Isabel Cecilia, and finally the Rossetti Bow by Jata Paulina. That one looks really nice, but I'm feeling a little bit overfaced by the pattern. It uses 4-ply yarn and 1.5mm needles, which I did buy a couple of years ago with this project in mind, and they are so thin and I'm worried that they're going to snap, and I don't know how that's going to work with 4-ply yarn. I would have thought maybe a 1.5mm would be more like embroidery floss or crochet thread rather than 4-ply, but I will give it a go, and if I do, I'll update you with how it went. I have been seeing so many knitted shawls on Instagram at the moment, and it's given me a lot of motivation to cast on. I haven't quite decided what shawl. Well, I think I have decided what pattern I'd like to make, but the ones that I have seen are the Stay Toasty, is it called? Hang on, let me check my notes. Yeah, the Stay Toasty shawl by Veronica Lindberg. The pattern is on Ravelry for £5.50, or no, sorry, €5.50, which is just under £5. That one's lovely. It's got kind of like a waffle design. I think that's the point of the pattern, is that it's like toasty waffles. It looks really nice. But the one that keeps catching my eye is the Leaflet by Justina Lukoska, and that uses, well, it says it uses one skein, but I think it's 480 meters it wants of 4-ply yarn. I don't have a single skein that has that much meterage on it. The 2 skeins that I have pulled out as potential to be knit into this pattern are 425 meters, but I have seen that people in their pattern notes have adjusted the pattern repeats to work for 425 meters, and I would probably weigh my yarn as I'm knitting so that I know when I'm getting to the halfway point and can adjust it from there. But this leaflet pattern, as the title suggests, it is all these lovely lacy leaves, and it looks like the perfect autumnal scarf. That pattern is on Ravelry for €8. However, there's an offer on which doesn't need a coupon code. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. If you buy another pattern called the Scarflet together with the leaflet, you can get both for €12, which is about £10.83. So it works out cheaper to buy the 2 patterns. And the Scarflet is also lovely. It's just a little bit more boxed shape. It's still a shallow triangle shawl. The yarns that I have pulled out of my stash cabinet are these 2. I've got Bird Street yarn 4-ply in the colourway Old Number 7. This is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon for 425 meters for 100 grams, and that's like a rusty colour. It's really pretty. I think I'm leaning more towards this one for the leaflet. And then I have got this one by, I think you say Yo Mama Yarns. I bought this when I was at a yarn retreat in Ireland, and the shop is in Inniskillen at the Butter Market, and this is their ultimate sock yarn in the colour Sunflower. It is also 425 metres, 75% superwash blue face Leicester, and 25% nylon. And I think I bought this maybe as a contrast yarn to go with like a navy, so kind of more like a celestial, for a celestial pattern. So I think I'll go with this one. I also have a pattern in mind for socks. I think it's something called like the Star and Moon socks, or it's a colourwork pair of socks with stars and moons running up the ankle and down towards the toe. I think that this one might be better if I leave it and then I have that as an option for them in the future. But yeah, leaflet probably going to be Bird Street yarns. Crochet projects that I would like to start. Which one to start with first? Well, I've got 2 friends that are having babies, and I would really like to make them baby blankets, preferably using stash yarn if I can, because I have got a lot, and I like to make baby blankets with acrylic yarn, the softest I can find, but it's just so much easier for parents if they can just chuck the blanket in the wash with everything else and not have to worry. So I tend to go with acrylic, and I've got 2 yarns that I've got like blanket amount for, and this is caked up. I cake up all of my Stylecraft and that kind of acrylic because it's easier to stack up. I think you might be able to see this way in the bottom shelf of the cabinet stacked up, but this is Stylecraft Special Double Knit in Parma Violet, which is a soft grey with almost like a hint of lavender tone to it, but it makes a nice baby blanket. And then I have got this, which I bought for a jumper, and it hasn't happened. I haven't found a pattern, so I can use this now. And that is the Hayfield Soft Twist Double Knit, which is 90% acrylic and 10% merino wool. So I've got 2 amounts for 2 blankets. Now, generally when I'm making crochet baby blankets, I really tend to make the midwife blanket by Rebecca Langford, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. I think the pattern might have been featured in Call a Midwife, or as like a vintage pattern that was used in Call a Midwife, and I think Rebecca wrote the pattern up from what she'd seen on the screen. Don't quote me. And I've made that blanket so many times, so I think that's what I usually would make. But I'd quite like to try something new, and I've seen a couple of baby blankets that I'd like to try. One of them is called the Picket Fence Baby Blanket, which is a free pattern by DH Designs. It can be found through Ravelry, or you can go directly to daisycottagedesigns.net. That is a lovely back and forth striped blanket. I think again it's got kind of like a fillet crochet pattern where you've got these like lacy sections, but it's really simple. It doesn't even have a border. It just looks really nice. I'll pop a picture in somewhere. And then the other blanket that I found is called Nana's Sweet as Can Be blanket by D Mounds, which is on Ravelry for $5.75 US, which is about £4.47. Again, it's a fillet crochet pattern, similar to the midwife blanket actually, but instead of the squares with the flowers in, it's hexagons. It looks almost like honeycomb. Tea time. Finally, the last crochet project that I would like to start pretty soon is the crisscross shawl by Fay DH. I've got these 2 skeins, and I have actually gotten halfway on this shawl previously. I think the pattern was released in 2017 or thereabouts, and I started crocheting it when it was released. and then it just got put in the back of a drawer and I never finished it. And when I picked it up, I contemplated just carrying on with it, but I think my attention and the way I crochet has probably changed so much in that time that I would rather just frog it and start fresh. So that's what I did. I rewound the skeins and I intend to start again. So the crisscross shawl is a free pattern by Fay, and you can find it on provenancecraft.com. And the yarn I have is a beautiful forest green colour by John Arbon Textiles in their Harvest Hues range, which is a 4-ply. The colour is juniper, and it is a green which it has some kind of blue tones in it and all sorts of shades of greens all blended together, and it is stunning. It's kind of jewel toned. The yarn composition is 33% Blueface Leicester, 33% Falklands Merino and 33% Warbles, and the colour is just stunning and it's so soft and it's got this halo to it. It was really nice to work with, so I'm really looking forward to casting this one on again. So that is all of my kind of imminent make wish list projects. So maybe I'll have started a couple of those next time I record. Of course, if the cast on gods will me to make something else, then so be it. It's not in my control. I tend to just find something and start making it with kind of like a rush of inspiration and motivation. Yeah, it cannot be controlled. Don't blame me. I do have a few new acquisitions to show you after quite a long time of not buying anything craft related, with saving for a house and moving and everything. But I did go to the Woolly Good Gathering in Edinburgh in April, and I met up with Faye as well as Rosina, who you may know from the Zeens and Roger podcast on YouTube, and Michelle from the DoraDoes podcast on YouTube. All three of these lovely ladies are wonderful crochet designers, and you should go and check out their patterns. The first things that I bought, 3 things, all from the same shop, and that shop, I'm nervous to say it because I don't know how to say it. It's from Ankatenbeek. It is the cat shop. I don't know what it translates to, and I'm horrendously sorry for mispronouncing the name of the shop, but it is a knit and craft shop that is all cat themed, and you will notice that with these 3 items. And they sell patterns and stitch markers and project bags and notions and all sorts. It's a wonderful shop, and I always try and pick up something when I see them. But I bought the Choose Your Own Cat Sock Adventure by Mona Gilligan pattern book, which looks like this, and inside are all these wonderful cat patterns, and I love cats even though I don't have one. So I thought, what better than knitting some cat socks? So that's the first item from the shop that I bought. The second item is in my notions tin. If I open this, everything might fall out. And that is these cat-shaped stitch markers. And I actually am using the lilac ones on my Winter's Frost socks at the moment because it matched so perfectly with the wool. This is the name of the shop, by the way. And there are so many different colours in here. There's 2 of each colour, so I should have one to always match up. And they remind me of the stitch markers by Coco Knits, which I also love their mini ring stitch markers for socks. So I'm super happy with these cute cat-shaped stitch markers, so they can go back in my tin. Maybe one day I can show you what's in this tin because it is crammed full, and apart from DPNs, it's got everything I need in it. The last thing that I bought from the shop was in my DPN pencil case, which is kind of like I rely on these two for my notions, and this one is always brought along if I'm at the stage where I need DPNs for my socks, because I use them for my heels and toes. Anyway, in here are these cat paw scissors, and they are so cute, and there's a little paw print, little beans, and you open it and there's these wonderfully sharp scissors, and they're so small and cute. So that's what I bought from that shop. And then I bought this skein. I only bought one skein of yarn. I was trying to be good, and that is the Winnie the Pooh 4-ply range from the Crafty Bird hand-dyed yarn, and the colourway is called Kanga and Roo. It's cozy 4-ply, 100% superwash merino, 400 metres per 100 grams. And this is, the colour just drew me, and I saw it and then I wandered around. We were just having a lovely time chatting and looking at all of their products, and at the end of the day I said I really got to go back to the Crafty Bird because I had this one stuck in my brain, and it has got this like beigey brown combination with pinks and cornflower blue, a little bit of lavender. There's all sorts of colours in this, and hopefully it focuses. Somehow this got a little bit ratty in my bag, but yeah, I'm super happy with this, and I'm glad that out of all of the yarn that I saw, this is the one that I chose. I just think it's so pretty, and it'll probably become a pair of socks when I find the perfect pattern for it. So then I also bought 2 knitting patterns from the Fibre Workshop, and one is called the Red Campion and the other the Brancaster, which is a shawl. So I've got fingerless mittens, colour work. They look really pretty, and the Brancaster shawl, which I think Fay, Michelle and Rosina also bought this pattern, so hopefully we can all make it together. I said, please can I be part of your club, because they stayed in Edinburgh together, whereas I just live nearby and kind of tagged along for the day. So hopefully we can make this together. And that's everything I bought. I think I might be forgetting something, but I think that's everything I bought from the Woolly Good gathering. But we did go to the Fibre Yard, which is a wonderful, relatively new yarn shop in Edinburgh that I've never been to before. It's so beautifully curated in there, and I could have spent hours in there. You could drop a lot of money. It's beautiful. There's so many glorious yarns in there. But I did buy 2 sock needles. I don't know where they go. I just tend to lose them. I really like the, is it Leica? I don't know how you say it. They're short circulars, but they're really, really hard to get hold of. And I wanted to buy another pair, and I can't find anywhere in stock that has 2 pairs in the UK. There's only one in stock, so I thought I would try these sea knits, and I've put the paperwork back in the pattern. So that is it for recent acquisitions, and I don't have any immediate plans to buy yarn, which is kind of a lie, but it's not for now. I am trying to work mostly from stash. I have got a lot of wool, you can see, and I just need to find the right patterns for the yarn that I have. Yeah, so as I was saying, no kind of immediate plans to buy yarn. However, for years I've really, really, really wanted to buy a yarn advent calendar, and this year I found one that it just looks so nice, and obviously you don't see what the yarn's going to be until you have it, but that is the Earth and Ember advent calendar by Beehive Yarns, and it's all earth tony, looks like there's hints of burgundy and rust in it, and it just looks like it's going to be a super pretty advent calendar. I saw recently that they said it was their most popular advent calendar to date, so I need to make my mind up about that quickly, because I think I don't have long to decide. And I really would like to make a habitation throw. I don't have the details for that pattern. It's been on my wish list to make for a few years, so it uses I think it's specifically designed for advent calendars. You can use in a striped blanket. I think it's corner to corner. That's probably yarn that I'm going to buy, but like I said, it's a bit of a cheat because it doesn't arrive immediately and it is kind of for Christmas, so it's not like it's going to arrive next day delivery. But the other yarn related item that I would like to buy, and I have been thinking about this for a couple of years, changing my mind, deciding which one I'd like, and that is a redesigned project bag. And if you've seen Redesigned, they are all leather project bags in different shapes and sizes, but they are stunning. And the type of bag in particular that I'm looking to get is one that opens flat, and it's like a cube shape, and then when you zip it open like a cosmetic bag, the zip goes diagonally, and then when you open it up, it opens up flat, so you have like these compartments on either side. But I really wanted one with a shoulder strap as well, because if it didn't have a shoulder strap, then I wouldn't take it out and about with me, and then I'm spending a lot of money for something that is just going to probably stay at home. So I think I've made my mind up now, and I think the one that I want to buy is the 79. They all have different numbers, and I think it's the Project Bag 79 that I'd like to get. This is an open flat bag. It comes with a shoulder strap, which is removable, and it also has these contrasting leather corners, which I think would protect the leather a little bit when you put it down. I might have that to show you on the next video. If I don't, I'll probably still be talking about it. Anyway, that's it for plans to buy. Let's see if I go rogue. Now on to reading and books and what I've been reading and what I'd like to read next. So in May, we went on holiday and I read a few books at the end of April, but the first one that I read in May is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, and then I read Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas and Girl A by Abigail Dean, and I'm currently reading Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. So Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, I read this on my Kobo. It's a very steamy contemporary college romance. It's set in the world of like competitive diving, and it follows two athletes. They have kind of this like rivalry, and it turns into attraction, and this book was super spicy and I absolutely loved it. It was a great book to finish the holiday on, and especially overlooking the pool and you're reading about diving and aquatics, and yeah, it was great. And then when we came home, I continued with the Assassin's Blade, which I'd already started. This book is actually a prequel to the Throne of Glass series, and I didn't realise that it was like a collection of novellas introducing Selena Sardothian before the events of the Throne of Glass. It explores her life and as an assassin, and the dangerous things that she's having to do and the losses that she incurs. And you kind of like see how she becomes who she is in Throne of Glass. So I thought that as an intro it was very good. It was a great insight into a character's background. I suspect that Selena's going to be the protagonist of the series, even though I've only read the first two books so far. Thought it was great. I gave it 4 stars, I think. And then I read Throne of Glass, which follows on from the Assassin's Blade, and it's officially the first book in the series. And this one is like an adventure following Selena. She has to compete for her freedom in the King's Tournament, Come Champion, I think it's called. And she like discovers there's so much political things going on, and there's dark magic and some kind of destiny she's happened upon for herself. And I think the biggest takeaway that I found from this book was that Selena, the protagonist, she is really struggling to make relationships with people. She's kind of feels like she's got this need to have someone in her life that she can trust, but obviously from her background she doesn't trust easily at all, and she's always waiting for the next bad thing to happen, which I don't blame her. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the next book in the series. I'm on a mission at the moment to read all of the Sarah J. Maas universe. I read ACOTAR, and obviously the next book is coming out in October, so I want to try and read Throne of Glass and Crescent City before then, because I've been trying to avoid any spoilers, so I'm not really in the loop, but I think that all three series are gonna kind of like cross over in the next ACOTAR book. Maybe it won't, but I'd like to be prepared. I don't want to spoil things for myself, so yeah, I'm trying to read through all of those. The last book that I read was Girl A by Abigail Dean, which was a buddy read with my friend. This was like a haunting psychological thriller about a woman who's like processing and reflecting and trying to like confront the childhood trauma that she went through after escaping the House of Horrors, where her and her siblings were imprisoned by their parents. This book was heartbreaking, and there was a twist at the end of the book that I didn't see coming until it was almost upon me, and it kind of, by the time that I'd realised what was happening, it was kind of happening in the book, and yeah, it was very moving. But then I'm reading now Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life, which is her most recent book. I've read all of her books to date, and I absolutely love her as an author. Her books are romance, they're not super spicy, but they're just super easy to read, and they make me feel holiday vibes. So I do tend to read more romance in the summer, and then in the autumn, winter, I kind of sway towards more like gothic, witchier, academic reads. But yeah, for the summer now I'm kind of on romance. But yeah, I haven't finished this book yet, so I can't really share too much, although at the moment I'm getting vibes of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That kind of structure, perhaps. It's just making me think of that book a lot. And one thing that I really did enjoy was there was an Easter egg in the beginning of the book that like connects the characters to You and Me on Vacation, which is the last book I read on holiday by Emily Henry. So that was really nice. I liked that. But I'll update you how I find that book when I've read it. In terms of reading, I have so many books on my TBR, and I try and choose a collection of books each year that I want to focus on to try and read from my shelf, and then include a couple of new releases and keep me on track. I also co-host a monthly book club locally with a friend. Hi Lindsay, if you're watching this. And I also buddy read one book a month with another friend. Hi Lee, if you're watching this. So I really do read a mixture of genres, from contemporary fiction, historical fiction, fantasy, romance, romantasy, thrillers and classics, and occasionally non-fiction if it comes up in book club. What am I going to read next? In June, I'd like to carry on with Throne of Glass series, and I also want to read the Daisy Chain Flower Shop by Laurie Gilmore, which is a buddy read with my friend Lee. We've read all of these books together, and this is the sixth book in the Dream Harbour series, which I just love this series. It's so cozy, and you can just escape from life for a bit, and I really, really love that series. And I know it came out, did it come out last month? Or this month, early this month maybe? But we have put it as a buddy read in June, and then once we've read the book, we like chat back and two about what we thought of it, so that's nice. Another book that I'd like to read, which was on my TBR for this year, is a new release which I pre-ordered, and that is Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. I actually read another of her last book on holiday, called One Golden Summer, and that's like a Canadian lakeside vibes, and I don't know whether Our Perfect Storm is also set in the same place, but I really enjoy Carly Fortune's writing. Again, it's a summer romance, very similar to Emily Henry and maybe Laurie Gilmore even as well, but they always bring just the summer vibes, easy to read, nice to escape to, make you feel like you're on holiday. And that's kind of it. All of those books are on my Kindle, not my Kindle, my Kobo, sorry. So I might end up mixing in a physical book as well. And I think that's everything for the first episode of the Skein Story Podcast. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me. It genuinely means the world. I was really nervous to come back to YouTube, but I've really enjoyed sitting and chatting with you about all of my crafts and the books that I've been reading. I'd absolutely love to hear what you're working on at the moment, what you're reading, and whether there are any books or projects that you think that I should have a look at. Please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to come back in the future for more cosy chats, knitting, cross-stitch, crochet, books, and little snippets of Scottish coastal life, please feel free to subscribe. Until next time, I hope you can get some time with your hobbies. I'll see you again soon. Bye.